Living the life.
So now our first guest of the evening is Dilawar Hussain Khan, the Executive Director of the fantastic East London Mosque, which many of you probably frequented. They were visited by the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge to congratulate staff for helping the community during the pandemic. Assalamu alaikum and welcome, Dilawar bhai.
MashaAllah.
Welcome.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alhamdulillah. What a beautiful view. You know, even if you can't get to the masjid, you can see people are still praying in the background. Jazakallah khair. But look, Dilawar bhai, before we go on to talk about the visit, let's have a look at some of the fantastic work that East London Mosque has been doing during the pandemic.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله أشهد أن محمد رسول الله صلوا في بيوتكم صلوا في بيوتكم الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
Absolutely beautiful. Dilawar bhai, you know what, 25, maybe 30 years ago when I first got into Dawah, when we would come down from Glasgow, we would stay at the East London Masjid. I mean, it's very different then. And it's home from home, even though I'm not a Londoner, but it's still home from home, alhamdulillah. Listen, we need to find out, Dilawar bhai, on the back of what we've seen, I mean, East London Masjid, mashallah, came to the front of the pandemic, and that some of the work, sadly, there was obviously many losses that we had. People were in difficult scenarios. Tell us a bit about what you've been doing over the last few months.
Yes, Jazakallah khair, Brother Naeem, for inviting me to this event, to this program. I think you've seen in the video, some of the works have been highlighted, especially during the lockdown. Alhamdulillah, we continued our programs, our daily programs by our imams online. The counseling, the advice and counseling services continued over the phone, especially for sisters. We have a few qualified female counselors. You know, during the lockdown, domestic issues increased. So there were a lot of calls to the mosque for the imams and for the counselors. Alhamdulillah, we also partnered with one of the local food banks, and we helped them to deliver food to the vulnerable. And we also had a supplementary food bank where, for Muslims, we provided, the usual stuff that we Muslims have normally in Ramadan. This chana, rice, and dal, and other things, which is the mainstream food bank doesn't give, unfortunately. So we worked with them, and we delivered to everyone, and also to Muslims. We supplied additional stuff. We also delivered medicines. As you know, a lot of people were self-isolating at home, and they were not able to go to the pharmacy to pick up. So we received calls from the pharmacy saying, can you please deliver this medicine to this house? So, and we had volunteers doing that. And also, alhamdulillah, we provided 8,000 meals to the NHS staff.
MashaAllah.
we started before Ramadan, but we continued into Ramadan. Muslims and non-Muslims, regardless, and just to appreciate their contribution during the lockdown. And also around 6,000 meals we provided abroad through our charity partner. And also one of the critical issue, as you know, when there was a lot of death in a short period of time,
yes,
many of the funeral services were struggling, for the burials and to keep the bodies, because there was a backlog. They were not able to keep up with the digging of the grave. And so, alhamdulillah, we made an appeal to our community, and they've donated, and we established a temporary mortuary just very close to the mosque. Alhamdulillah, this helped. We also supported Eternal Gardens and Gardens of Peace with their burial service. Alhamdulillah. We also managed to acquire some PPE, items, and we donated to some care homes and local hospitals. Alhamdulillah. So I think what happened is the mainstream media picked it up, alhamdulillah, and this is how the royal family got to know about it. And they actually came to show their appreciation to some of the projects in our hamlets. And they actually contacted us and saying they would like to come and meet some of those people who actually were involved in the delivery of this service during the lockdown. We also want to meet some beneficiaries. So that's how it happened.
You can see tonight, Imran's got his velvet smoking jacket on just to ask the question about the royal visitors.
That's right. But I have indeed, I knew it would be right for the show. But before we go on to that, however, wallahi, as Allah is my witness, it's very emotional to hear about all the great things, mashallah, that the masjid and the community have achieved. And also watching your video as well that we just saw there, and all the great effort that's been put in by the community. Now masjid's being closed, everyone will know that for 3 or 4 months the community's position was sadly deteriorating through poverty and through their mental health as well. So it's beautiful to see that the community near East London Mosque and all over the country, I'd assume, have recognised this and have come together, and you provided such a fantastic service. Did you find that the people that were donating towards these charities, were they eager to help, or did you have to really drum up that support?
Alhamdulillah, our community responded very well, and actually we were surprised by their response. So, for example, for the mortuary service, we actually raised the funds within 3 days.
Alhamdulillah.
People, when we put it out into the social media, people responded. They donated through our website. Alhamdulillah. Also for the food bank, people donated. Also for the iftar and the meals that we supplied to the NHS. All of this, alhamdulillah, we didn't have to use our mosque core funds for this. Alhamdulillah, our community donated. It shows that our community really cares, and they're really responsive in this kind of situation.
And what about the royal visit? I mean, was that something that was planned in advance of what was going on when COVID hit, or was it something that basically became, a part of the diary as COVID, and obviously realising the amount of work and the volunteers that put into place at the masjid?
Yeah, it wasn't planned. Actually, we had about 10 days notice. So they just we had a call from the palace saying that the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, they want to come.
Well, we've got them on the screen, alhamdulillah. So you only had 10 days notice, mashallah. But obviously with the masjid being closed, there wasn't much cleaning and getting ready to, to greet them in the first place. Would that be right?
No, but the masjid was open. We actually opened the masjid from the 13th of July, after the government allowed opening with social distancing. So the masjid was open, but obviously some of our services were not open. So there were prayers going on, but they actually came after Zuhur prayer. But we managed to. They were mainly interested in the services that we provided during the lockdown period. They're not interested to see other projects.
Okay.
At a very short time as well.
Subhanallah. So Brother Dilawar Bhai, was that yourself showing them around? Did you get to meet them in person as well?
Yes, we, myself, our chairman, we welcomed them, and then one of our brothers who was heading some of the projects. He actually took them around and they met each of the teams. For example, the team that delivered the food bank, the team that delivered the iftar, the team delivered the medicine. So all of those teams, they actually spoke to them in person. They also met some of the beneficiaries as well.
Fantastic, mashallah.
What was their feedback? Is it any words of wisdom, encouragement that you can share with us?
Yes, there were. They came and they appreciated us for the services that we provided. They were also particularly concerned about mental health of the community.
Well, the Duke is very much involved in mental health, of course.
That's right. Yes, he's very much interested in that, and we have actually mentioned to him that one of the side effects of this lockdown is the mental health problems, especially amongst young people and women. So we need to do something. We together, and we actually offered our services. Is there anything we can do, to complement what work he's doing? And we are happy to do that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And all the volunteers that are coming together, obviously. And this work is continuing, isn't that right, Dilawar Bhai? This work continues and it continues to grow.
Yes, alhamdulillah, it is continuing. And inshallah, we will be continuing the food bank because we know that regardless of the COVID-19, there are people who are needy in our community, and we need to support them. And the counseling service, our imams are overwhelmed with calls especially from sisters who are having problems at home and with the relationships and all that. So there's a lot of issues going on in the community, and many of us are not aware.
I think, Dilawar Bhai, the thing with East London Mosque, mashallah, with the Maryam Centre and everything, it is actually one of the main masjids where the sisters can go and are maybe used to going, whether they live locally or not so much. So with it being closed and with it being so relied upon, I think it's been great that the sisters have continued to have that facility as soon as possible, because naturally you can only provide it if the masjid is open.
That's right. So at the moment we are open for prayers. And so people have access to the masjid, but unfortunately, people used to stay behind in the masjid after the prayers. That we cannot allow this at the moment.
Of course.
Come before prayer, pray, and then go home, which wasn't the case with East London Mosque. Actually, we never closed our doors. 365 days a year since I've known East London Mosque. The doors never closed. We opened.
And what are the plans like for the next, obviously every day, unfortunately, if not every week, things are changing. What are the plans like for the kind of new lockdown now, which, in inverted commas, has taken place in the last couple of days or so? What plans have you got in place over the coming next month or 2 months? I mean, they're talking about 6 months, to be honest. Let's hope we don't have a Ramadan similar to what we had this year. But how are you mitigating the next 6 months and Ramadan for next year?
Actually, there's not a lot we can plan because we have to wait for the government's instructions. Fortunately, the latest development and the instructions by the government hasn't affected us that much. I think they only affected the wedding, the nikah service.
Yes.
But before, we managed to allow, the government allowed up to 30 people, but now we can only allow up to 15. For Zanaza, there's no change.
Sure.
For prayers, there's no change. So, alhamdulillah, the latest development hasn't affected us yet. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. We hope we'll be able to continue, inshallah. Our schools have reopened. We have, you probably know, we have 2 full-time schools, one primary, one secondary. They have reopened, alhamdulillah, within the guidelines of the central government.
I think also now, look, the masjid is not open how it used to be, and this may go on for 6 months, maybe more, we don't know. This is kind of the new normal, they keep calling it. So those people, as you said, the masjid is usually open 365 days a year, but those wanting to get in contact now, but obviously outside of Salah times, how can they get in contact with East London Mosque?
Well, they usually call us and they need to make appointments. So if they have a need, they need to make an appointment. We're still helping people, as much as we can. People call us and they want whatever support they need. Inshallah, we try and provide as much as we can.
Inshallah. Dalal bhai, Jazakallah khair for being with us and taking time out, because alhamdulillah, I know you're a very busy man. Allah has blessed you with this work, and your team out there, East London Masjid, may you go from strength to strength and be safe, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair for joining us. Assalamu alaikum. Barakallah. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Living the life.